and announce the beginning of the call, which it's Monday, October the 2nd or Tuesday, October the 3rd, depending on which side of the date line you're on, 2023. And this is the Open Hearted Practice Group with Jory and Jim. And I'm feeling more energy now that you guys have started to arrive. It's kind of hot in this particular office in the afternoon, and it just kind of gets a little bit sleepy for me. But as you are arriving, I'm feeling more energized. How are you?
Just touching into how sweet it is to have community. We live out in a bit of the hinterlands, and certainly over the last few years, and including the last month or so, have really been much more isolated. So it's just really sweet to feel that sense of community. Thank you for showing up.
Yeah. Our topic today is continuing on with the practice of requests. We're going to do some role plays and get you practicing in small groups and so forth. So that's the plan. And we also, we practice with self-connection or self-empathy as well. So in just a moment, I'll guide you through a self-empathy practice to set us up for today. And then we'll do a small group practice where you get to just respond to how this self-connection exercise worked for you or didn't work for you. Anything that you like to say to check in with a couple of other people and just practice honesty and empathy together. Anything else you want to say before we start?
No, let's move on.
Okay, so I'm gonna play a few minutes of a video with Marshall after I sort of set a tone for you in your inner space. So it'll be a combination of just a real brief self-connection exercise and then a little bit from Marshall Rosenberg. So you can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. It's up to you. And of course, doing the exercise is also optional. If you'd rather just skip it, that's fine. Just notice your breath. Each breath is like connecting to the energy of life. Bring a quality of presence to breathing. And as you bring this quality of presence to breathing, you might notice other things happening for you. You might notice thoughts. That's fine. Human beings are thinkers. We're thinking animals. Nothing wrong with thinking. Just notice that you can notice thinking. You can also notice sensations in the body. Thoughts, sensations, emotions, they come and go in a flow, a dynamic flow. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope for me, always changing, never the same. And yet here I am, just watching it all go by. Being this presence, this simple awareness of the dance of life unfolding before me. Your eyes have been closed. I invite you to open them. I'm going to play a little video for you from Marshall. This is on the 6th, which is just 4 days away. It'll be Marshall's birthday. And so I thought I would want to include him in our session today. I love having a little Marshall video as part of our classes to just give some respect and some appreciation for the gift that he gave the world with nonviolent communication. So this video is about 5 or 6 minutes long, and it's Marshall talking. It's the very end of a workshop in Germany, and he's using. He will mention the word wolf, I think, at one point. In Germany, they use the word wolf to describe jackal, what we would call in North America and other places in the world, we call it jackal. This tendency, these habits of language that we've been educated to use. So if you hear that word wolf, you'll know that he's talking about jackal. Okay. Wrong button. Again.
Take two.
There we go.
It's a language of life, you see. It helps us to stay connected with life, moment by moment. See? But it's hard to do. It's hard to take in this gratitude if you have been educated in a wolf way. See, as they say in the Course in Miracles, it's our light, not our darkness, that scares us the most. So we're not used to really seeing the power that we have as human beings to enrich life. We're not educated to see that we have this divine energy, that we have power to enrich people's lives, and that there's nothing that we like better than doing that. But to do that requires this liberation from this language we have been taught, this liberation from tactics of coercion, punishment, reward, guilt induction. We didn't talk much about guilt induction. I assume you all know how to do it, right? But just in case you haven't been taught how to use guilt in a violent way, let me show you how to do it. So this is one of my children who hasn't cleaned up their room to my satisfaction. Okay? Now, the first step in trying to induce guilt, you have to know how to look pathetic. So put yourself where the child can see you and look pathetic. What's the matter, Dad? Nothing. Come on, Dad, what's the matter? It hurts me when you don't clean up your room. Now you'll have 18 years of daily fights about the room when you use feelings that way. See, in nonviolent communication, we never blame others for our feelings. We say what they've done, but we connect our feelings to our needs. We don't blame other people for them. So we don't use blame induction, we don't use guilt, shame, none of that. What we do is we trust life. We trust that if we stay connected to life, everybody's needs can get met. So in a sense, it helps to think of nonviolent communication as a dance of life, where we connect with the life in the other connects with the life in us. Mit dem Leben tanzen, wie die Blätter mit der Sonne, wie die Pflanzen mit dem Regen, wie die Vogel mit dem Korn. Mit dem Leben tanzen, wieder und wieder, auf vielerlei Weisen. Wir haben Angst zu geben, wir haben Angst zu leben. Wieder und wieder. Lasst uns feiern die Freude am Leben, in jedem Atemzug, in jedem Augenblick. lasst uns feiern. Mit dem Leben tanzen, wie die Blätter mit der Sonne, wie die Pflanzen mit dem Regen, wie die Vogel mit dem Korn. Mit dem Leben tanzen.
Well, that was a surprise. I hope some of you understood German,
We didn't want to interrupt it in case you did.
but we'll find,
Yeah.
we'll find the English version and play it when you come back from your small groups. But it was still a great chance to practice presence, wasn't it? So it had exactly it was beyond my expectations. So the idea,
Under my expectations.
I actually do understand German, and what he was saying was mit dem Leben tanzen, which means to dance with life.
yeah, to dance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
the English version of the song is "Reach Out to Life." I love that it's in German, that it's the dance of life, because that's really. I heard him talking about it before I played it, and I thought, oh, that's exactly the theme today. The dance of life. It's a song I haven't heard yet, but I ran out of time to listen to it before the class started. So I'm gobsmacked.
Oh, yeah, we get a good laugh out of it. Take them wherever we can get them.
So we'll go to small groups and you talk about your own experience. Thank you so much, Sharmista, for translating that for us. And in the small group, you can introduce yourself to your friends, say your name, where you're calling from if you want to, and how you're feeling in the moment. And also if you've had any experiences with making or receiving requests, since we've been studying requests the last couple of weeks. And so if it's something, maybe a breakthrough about making requests or something that you've noticed about making requests, anything like that would be great for the small group. If you find yourself alone, just wait a moment and we'll get you some partners in just a second. All right, so here we go. It'll be, you'll see a timer in the upper right-hand corner of your screen for about 15 minutes. And it'll start at 13:59. It'll go down to 0, and then there'll be 1 minute left. Then you don't need to do anything before you come back here. You can just sit on your hands, and you'll end up back here.
And they're groups of 2 and 3.
And Don and Beth, I think they're both of you are there. So I'm going to leave you alone and add somebody to you if somebody else comes. Okay. So here you go. Checking in. Welcome back. And so during this part of the group, folks who would like to share anything in the large group about what happened in the small group can do that. So it's another way to stretch into practicing honesty if you'd like to. It's completely optional. And also for the rest of us, we're going to be mostly listening. So we get a chance to stretch our empathy towards whoever is speaking and connect to the feelings and needs that might be alive in them. So if you'd like to speak about anything, then you can raise your hand by pushing the little raise hand button on the bottom of your screen if you have the latest Zoom software. If you don't, then you should be able to raise your hand by clicking on reactions, and then there'll be a little place to raise your hand in there. So anyone like to share anything, especially about making requests? Anything you've noticed about making requests? That's my request. Who would be willing to share something? Yeah, Jeanette, thank you.
I am noticing there is a huge difference in my world between people I know and making a request and people like that I don't know, like institutions, customer service, insurance. It's got to be a little different because if I'm very easy with the requests with people that are institutions, I usually get run over. I'm noticing that. I do not like that, but I've just noticed it that NVC is great with people that I know their name, but if it's organizations, I have to work on this. I don't see it as fruitful, put it that way, as beneficial.
So what you've noticed is that, is it something to do with the humanity on the other end, and with friends or family or whoever, there's a sense of more of a sense of connection, but with an institution, then you lose that. And so you find out that maybe you have to kind of revert to some other more forceful tactics in order to get your needs met.
More assertive, because they have to go by their policies, and they don't have room to, many of them I've noticed that they have to stick to the script. And if I go down that rabbit hole, I am days and weeks, and I get lost, and it's just a lot of wasted energy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the request that works for me in that situation is, would you be willing to put a supervisor on?
That's what I've done. Oh,
Yeah.
but we can't do that right now, or
Yeah.
whatever the story is. So I have to
Yeah.
keep at it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I have to keep escalating. Yeah.
Persistence. Yeah, it takes persistence.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I think we need a escalated NVC version.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Jeanette. And Chrysalis?
Hi, sorry, I was having a hard time getting the unmute button there. Interesting. I kind of feel like I'm the opposite from what was just shared. I find it easier to make requests from impersonal entities because I don't have like a baggage, just to put it in some words, or context with them. And you know, for me, it's like I can be courteous and like, you know, and I know you're working hard. Like I'm always aware of the other person's a human just trying to do this thing in a system. So I don't know. I generally come from that space. It's interesting because what I wanted to talk about again tonight, it's interesting coming after that because it really is the exact opposite for me. I'm finding that I'm still grappling with the explanation about demand as being a form of punishment. I think I want to take a little issue with it because what I notice about making requests is that, like, I have to feel emotionally resourced and secure to feel like I can make a request. I notice when I can't do it, it's because I am feeling literally threatened myself. Like, I don't feel like I'm in power. You know, when an animal is cornered, it's kind of like that for me, you know, like, so I'm just doing what I can to be heard or to, so, and this is for sure, like the closer the relationship, the more baggage, the more likely that I'll feel that way. And what I was trying to share with my people in the room is I'm not consciously trying to punish them. I just don't, I think of people as making requests as like people who are in a position to get to make a request. Like you have to be in a certain position yourself to feel courteous and think about the other person and want to sound a certain way and feel a certain way, right? So anyway, I'm not saying, right, it's for me, I recognize, I do feel like so much more of it is about whatever work I need to do so that I'm not feeling, why am I feeling that demand energy? Because I'm inside, I feel completely powerless. I feel like if I don't demand this, I'm not going to be heard. Like you've got me, you know, cornered. You're going to like step on me. I have to like shout out to you. This is like, I have this with my brother. We've had a dynamic in the past. He's been abusive to me and my father, you know, so I just needed to keep saying that because I'm here for a reason. I want to practice it. I love hearing it modeled. I love hearing the hypotheticals when people's nervous systems are calm enough to do this work, but that's rarely what happens for me in reality. So thanks.
And if I'm catching you, the reason that you're noticing it as a challenge, it's because this really strong protective energy comes up in you.
I'm just saying I can notice that over time. Like I think about, having been exposed to MVC and this talk about requests, which again, it's fascinating. I'm like, oh, I would love that. I would love if my family, we all talk that way.
Mm.
But my family, our culture, my history, that's not what happens for me. So I'm just like in this longer, like I'm just here to keep absorbing it, but it is not my reality. Like
I
and again, and I also want to just say that I am not trying to punish the other person. So it's not that I don't feel like that's the only case in which people come from demand.
Yeah. So let me make sure that I'm clear about the distinction that you're bringing, just because maybe I wasn't as clear as I wanted to be. When I say that the linkage between a demand and the distinction between a demand and a request is like this. If I say to Jory, would you be willing to scratch my back? And she said, it's okay for me if she says yes or no. That's what tells me that it's a request. I can't know whether or not she's made a request unless I've made a request, unless she says no. And then what comes up for me after she says no, if that's punitive, then I know I'm making a demand. If I either want to withdraw my love or hurt her or get even with her or make her feel guilty or give her a sense of obligation or any of that kind of stuff, then that's just information for me that I need more empathy, that I'm not yet at the place where I can make a request. It's not about necessarily being nice. In fact, it's the opposite of being nice. It might be kind, but it's not nice. When I'm nice, I actually give up on my needs. If you say no, I automatically say, okay, then we'll do it your way. And that's my pattern. I retreat to submission in the face of a no. I punish myself rather than punishing her. And so that's the other thing. The other way that punitive energy can happen is punishing myself. And so the main point is that demand. If somebody else says no, and I want to, and punitive energy comes up, it just means I've made a demand and not a request. And the reason that I make demands instead of requests is because I need empathy.
Yeah.
I need empathy for all the things that have happened to me in the past when I've made requests, for all the times I've heard no, by the times when I felt powerless to get what my needs met and so forth. So I think I'm right with you, Chrysalis. How do you feel hearing that?
Yeah, I think if I'm not literal about it, and I'm just feeling the energetics, because I definitely, it's what I'm very much aware of and I appreciate is the difference, that just the distinction. And again, for me, it's more energetic. Like I recognize when I'm coming from a demanding energy. And like I said, the requesting energy, it's like, gosh, I just have not had that modeled. Like it's just not ever been something I've seen happen, or at least the people I grew up with. So yeah, so I don't do requests. Like I hear you're like, when I've made requests, I'm like, I don't even do that. I don't know how to do that. Like people just silently did things or demanded things silently, or I don't know. It's just so new. And I think the only other thing is I'm realizing that a lot of my things, see, and this is what I mean. I don't relate to request making in that I'm not in the position often of being an like I have something to request. It's often that the last thing that I was struggling with last group why I came was because something happened. That person had kind of a silent demand he was asking of me. And then later I wanted to follow up with it. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I was just like, oh, I have a request of you. It's often that I'm experiencing something from someone else, and then I have something to say. I'm trying to respond, and then both of us, I guess, are in some form of demand energy though, because it is definitely already like an intense situation. So
Yeah. Yeah, so in other words, if I'm following you, when both people have a request to be heard, then you can go bump because there's so much intensity because there's a quality of urgency about both parties being heard. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. And this was, I won't go into it now, you know, we can just pause here. I just appreciated getting to air thoughts I've had about this topic, but it wasn't like this thing that I was trying to work out last time, the thing that happened, which I was then trying to make a request later about, he wasn't even he was so unconscious. He was in a trauma response. And then I was being subjected to taking care of him without, you know what I'm saying? It was like there was no, I felt like I had no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
He was having a trauma response right in front of me, and then I was like having to help him. And then later, I wanted to talk about it with him, you know, and he just wouldn't go there. He would, and then he got kind of abrupt with me. But that it's just, I'm just trying to say that it's not even about people are in this request. They're just in their like subconscious or unconscious behaviors, very far from a request mentality. It's just
Yeah.
like they're in some kind of reaction.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It feels like I know it's a spectrum, and I'm like way over here on people are in reactive mode because requests for me are very much about very conscious behavior, you know. So anyway, thank you though.
You're
Letting
very
me air
welcome.
those
We'll,
things.
we'll keep exploring and see what will help you unpeel the power of making requests. Rob?
Can I say something interesting that's relative to what Chrysalis just said as a quick
I can't tell who's
um
talking.
oh, this is Aiden, but I think I'm
Oh, go ahead,
frozen.
Aiden. Sure. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great.
Just quickly because I notice and I don't want to extend this particular topic, you know, beyond you know what's would be appropriate, but I will say I've recognized something similar that I have curiosity around in terms of unconscious behaviors and how it relates to NVC when as I'm learning about trauma responses and things like polyvagal theory, like the states that we're in and the past experiences that are informing our present reactions. And it seems like how do we filter that into our requests, or how does that show up? Because sometimes it is like someone's responding to a trauma of the past in a present engagement. So how do we approach that with an NVC perspective?
Yeah. Well, the quick easy answer is with giraffe ears. We're keeping our empathy ears on, and when I'm in empathy, I can't make a demand. It's neurologically impossible to be in empathy and make a demand, in my experience. In order to make a demand, I have to move into my fight, flight, freeze circuitry in my brain. That's where demands live. And it's activated, and it can be activated by trauma and stress and so forth, because we've been educated that when there's something stressful happening, the best way to respond is to attack. And so that's where we all got educated that way. We got judged and criticized and blamed through our whole lives from people that had more power than us. So we internalized that domination system in us. And so naturally it comes out in moments of stress. So I'm in total harmony with you, Aiden. Yeah. And is that complete for you? Okay. And Rob?
Yeah, I'm just can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, just struggling with requests not being as effective as I like, and yeah, and of course not being attached to the outcome. I mean, it relates the situation to like last time where we had a member of our breakout group who seemed to be just at the getting into some finally opening up, and I tried to contact that person through emails or whatever, and you know, there's just this hot kind of sticky kind of like, I wish I could have done more, that my efficacy, I guess maybe some self-judgment, but certainly not, I don't feel in the zero, or I'm trying to, of course, be nice to relax into the zero and not being attached to it, but emotionally I seem to be.
Yeah, it's that emotional attachment that can get in the way of connection for you. Is that right, Rob?
Well, I guess we're talking about past trauma, or just really yearning to make a difference, and not feeling that I maybe express myself as well. Or, for instance, last week, if we wanted to continue our breakout room, I could have said, "Hey, I can do Zoom," blah blah blah. I thought of that later, though. So I don't know. I'm just expressing what's alive for me. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. And I really get your longing to contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's at the heart of requests, by the way. See, this is the thing that I don't think I've been as clear, and it's my hope for the takeaway today, that if there's one thing you take away from this series on requests, that you see that a request is an opportunity to contribute. That's the definition of a request. It's an opportunity to contribute to needs. So requests are about needs. They're not about me. And as we keep practicing, I hope that you'll get this distinction. It might start with a need in me that I notice in me, but needs aren't personal. Needs are always universal. So if I have a need to be heard, then I by default, I assume that the other person has a need to be heard. And I want to make sure that they get heard as well as me. If I have a need to express, I assume that the other person has a need to express. And so I want to do that dance so that both of us get a chance. And since in most cases, for people that come to this group, you're going to be the most effective peace workers in the room, wherever you go. Even if this is your very first NVC training, you're going to know more about navigating peace than most people on the planet, because you have this idea that it's about needs and not about being right. This is a revolutionary thought. It's a complete paradigm shift. Completely different way of looking at the world. And we're going to let go of being right and getting our way, and instead look for connection, because we're trusting that with connection, everybody can get their needs met. Now, it's a lot easier to say as a theory than it is when we're actually tangled with each other. But it's through practice in a group like this where we start getting the skills so that when we do get tangled, we're more likely to remember it.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, that's why we keep doing the same thing over and over again for 23 years. That's why I run groups, is because I need this practice. Asta?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that last bit. Some of it might be useful for what I was going to ask. But what really comes up for me when I ask for request is I'm always making 2 requests when I'm making one, like in most situations. And one of them is also wanting to be heard when I'm making a request or seen for the needs that are there in that moment. And I realize many times I'm okay hearing no. So if the other person says, I don't want to do this, and I'm okay hearing that. But most of the time in their no, I hear that my needs are not important or that they haven't heard my needs at all. And so there's this longing to have this confirmation if they even heard what I said. And then if I could just have that, then I have so much more space to figure out other ways of meeting whatever those needs are. So that's the point where I get stuck. Yeah, most of the time in my life, it's that.
Yes, thank you so much for saying it, because did you want to say something? Because you're demonstrating the pattern, and we'll go over the pattern again in just a second. The pattern that built into every request that we make, there are probably 3 requests. There's what we actually want the other person to do. That's what the action request. We also want to know that the other person heard our needs. That's the confirmation request that you just mentioned. You want confirmation that you matter. You want confirmation that your needs matter. And thirdly, we want to know what the other person feels about the request we've made. So every request, if we dissect it, we'll find 3 requests in there. And so what we've been working on over the last few weeks is breaking it down and doing one piece at a time in order to build that sense of connection. Thank you, Asta, for opening that door for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And
You have 2
Elspeth?
more? Yeah. Oops.
Yeah,
Elspeth?
she's right here.
Oh, you
Did that
took
come
her.
up? Something came up this week that's also come up the last couple of weeks, which is just around this pattern of sexism and this expectation that people raised feminine are going to put a lot more effort into empathizing with the other person and put a lot less effort into asking for what they need directly. And that question of being confirmed that what they're saying matters, or that it has an equal weighting, or that it can be met, that there is enough abundance to be met in both people. And I just found that really interesting because I hadn't really thought about sexism on that level so directly as the individual interaction moment by moment, and often only a few sentences that can repeatedly reflect this kind of power imbalance. And I think what's been coming up are things like resentment, or being very passive and noticing how someone will be very peaceable and kind of affirming the other person, but then not having that returned, or not hanging on to what someone really wants. And like you'd said earlier, just kind of letting go and saying, oh, okay then, and kind of letting something go, or someone really deeply wanting something but not feeling like they can ask for it, and just reconciling that within their mind that it's what they want, and then making the choice not to go through with their request. And yeah, I think that phrase that you said a few weeks ago, the crisis of creativity, it's not, often it can get down to quite a violent place of kind of feeling very scarce and very competitive between the 2 people, or that one person's needs matter much more than the other person's. But actually it's really just a crisis of creativity, and we absolutely have enough creativity to surpass that and make space for everybody and truly consider everybody. And and that's really hopeful for me, learning to actually make things clearly, and to be in the power of that, the entitlement to make a request, and to know that you matter yourself enough to hold your ground, all those kind of things. It's just a really interesting little creeping area where sexism kind of comes out in this very personal, very easy to address kind of sentence by sentence kind of way. Some of it's cultural, some of it personal, family values, all that stuff. But
yeah, thank you so much. I love hearing you say that for yourself, to be that aware, and also to share it for others too, that sometimes get lost in what they think is a power dynamic and they don't have a voice. So thank you so much for pointing that out.
And also celebrating the abundance that that a lot of being able to make a request. We're able to make requests when we begin to heal the idea of scarcity. That it's either you get your needs met or I get my needs met. That's the way we've been raised. That's the way we've been educated. That's the root cause of isms of all kinds, whether it's sexism or racism or genderism or thisism or thatism. It's all about a domination system where somebody's needs matter more than somebody else's. And nonviolent communication is a different world where this happens. And in order to make that shift requires our own inner work, and to accept that the other person may not ever do that inner work. They may never get the insight that we're living from, but the world is still big enough. The universe is still big enough to get everybody's needs met.
Right. And we can move past being a victim and still be empowered because we're not just looking in one direction. We realize there are other directions. Beautiful.
And again, this is so much easier to say when we're
Yeah.
leading a practice group than when we're actually having a tussle over a salt shaker or something like that. And once early in our relationship, Jory and I both went for, before NBC, both of us went for a salt shaker at the same time. And it was a great experience of how we played out power
Mhm.
in the relationship. So I've got my hand on the salt shaker and I'm pulling it towards me. Jory's got her hand on the salt shaker, pulling it for her. Now, culturally, you would think, who's going to win? Who gets the salt shaker? What's your guess? Right? Jory got the salt shaker,
Yeah.
not Jim. Right? You should have been that the man, the strong man, got this. That was the programming I had. But because of other things that happened in my life, being on the lower end of most totem poles, in my experience, I gave up my needs. Either that or I got patient and decided to wait for the salt shaker. That getting the salt, I could wait. You know,
It's only about 30 years ago. I can't
More
remember
like-
all
more
the
like 40.
details.
more like 40. But it was a great little metaphor for
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elspeth. Aiden.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that story, and what you shared before too about the finding needs met elsewhere. There's your needs can be met. I forget the word you used, Jim. I'm noticing my ADD kind of being rampant a little bit tonight, but the scarcity thing versus the plentiful thing, and sort of, yeah, that helped me actually, because what I wanted to share about my experience with requests recently are two quick episodes, but one's positive and one's challenging. I shouldn't say positive. One is I'm proud of how I handled it. I feel good about how I handled it. And the other one, I'm still challenged.
Mhm.
But we put down a pet this morning that was a very new pet that we had adopted on Friday. And man, I was carrying a lot of grief, more than I expected, or just a lot. And so I wanted to come on and be with community. And also earlier, there's a group I'm a part of in Compassionate Inquiry. I just let the people in that community know what was happening and made a request for some resources or support or whatever. And some people did show up, and it was very helpful. And it brought tears to my eyes just to be like, okay, well, I put this out there and people are showing up and responding and being present. And that felt out of character for me in a good way.
Mhm.
So that's a win of making a request, even though if I might not have put it in NVC language with the 3 levels you were talking about, but it felt like a request. And the request I'm struggling with, you kind of just addressed, and it might have been related to Chrysalis's comment earlier too, but with my parents, where there's this incredible intergenerational trauma, and a lot of it landed on my plate without going into the details.
Yeah.
And what I've learned from that is there's a lack of empathy. There's a lack of desire for connection with real needs, living needs from the end of my parents. I remember when I met you guys, I think at the 2020 VIIT conference, and in one of those groups, we were sharing about reconciling with parents. And the facilitator said, well, do you think your mom really wants to connect with you, really wants that connection, wants the needs? And my response was, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure. And that's my experience with both of my parents. And so so my point is, with this punchline, this is where the challenge is. Some part of me still craves this need of being seen, being heard, respect, consideration, communication, all these needs that are love and warmth, and these things that I don't get in my parental relationships.
Mhm.
But I also recognize it's just not happening.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I really appreciated that widening perspective, Jory, of just, I am getting it sometimes from other places, and sometimes it shows up, and I can request it more in other places. And I still don't know with my parents. It's sort of like, I don't have a functional request. So in some ways, I wonder about this distinction between a boundary and a request. In some cases, it's just sort of like maybe not going to come, maybe no blood will come from this rock at this moment anyways. And so I have to turn a little bit. I don't know if that resonates, but that's where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that, to acknowledge what you have learned and the liberation that you can see in that, even though you may still go down the rabbit hole now and then. There's an awareness. It's like your mind has opened up and grown. So thank you for sharing.
Also catching the compassion that you have for the suffering of intergenerational trauma and how deep that can be for us.
Yeah, it's really true. Yeah. Thanks for both those reflections.
Yeah, thank you. And now we have Monica.
Okay, so my question is, I have a friend and I'm teaching this friend NVC. This person likes NVC. They're enjoying, well, they're open to repeating and guessing the feelings and needs. So we practice, and they don't like, I don't know how to get them to, like, for example, if I say, oh, I'm sad or upset or hurt or disappointed, they say the words, but they don't really get the feeling. They don't have the feeling or the understanding of it, and I don't know how to explain that or get them to process that or feel what I feel, you know. I don't know how to do that. So that's my request. How do I teach that?
Yeah. I would say what's worked for me, Monica, is to just do it myself. Just to continue to like right now, I'm guessing that in these moments with your client or your friend that you're teaching NVC to, that it's frustrating for you because you would really like to have a sense that they get what it's like to be Monica. And so if that's what's alive in me, that I really want to get I really want the other person to get me, then I do everything I can to get the other person. And my sense is that then my brain and their brain eventually gets entrained. And so that's how I work with all my relational difficulties. If I want Jory to give me more gratitude, I start giving her more gratitude. I might make requests for her to give me gratitude too. But if I want Jory to offer me more support, I'll start offering more support. If I want more warmth, I give more warmth. And I think it just changes the relational field. If I give that which I want. That's why giving and receiving are the same thing. I mean, nonviolent communication, the whole purpose of it, if there's only one thing you take away today, it's just to remember the purpose of NVC is to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. So I can't give unless the other person's willing to receive, and I can't receive unless the other person's willing to give. And so I do my best to take 100% responsibility in those moments.
Right, because I've done what you suggested. Like, I always started with empathy first, and I, talk about the person's story, give them empathy, and then I want mutuality. So I say my part and ask them, and it's still, I get the words, but there's no energy behind it.
Yeah. It may just be, may be a matter of patience and time too. So, because of the effect of being educated in a domination system, many of us, and now I'm talking about me as much as anybody else, I lead with my left brain rather than my right brain. And my left brain is all about dividing the world up into pieces and trying to organize things and create order. And so when I'm learning a new skill and somebody says that they're feeling sad because they're needing connection, all I can do, the only available energy I have is to do my left brain and think, okay, so I got sad and I got connection, at least that much. And then as time goes by, I'll begin to open my heart more and actually be able to imagine what it's like to feel sad and to need connection.
Because what happens for me is I say it and I'm not blaming. I just, say what's up for me, but the person hears it as blame and gets defensive and tries to promote their point of, I'm doing blah, 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 blah. So not even really connecting with what I said, even though there's no blame and I'm just, talking about what's up for me, and
Yeah.
they're just hearing blame and they're getting defensive. And so, yeah, I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, you fix it by staying with empathy. Don't have any expectation that they will ever get you. And then you'll have a lot more fun with your teaching. So like anytime that anybody learns anything about NVC from me, it's like a huge miracle because I'm here to learn for me. If you guys get something from it, then that's actually bonus material as far as I'm concerned. But I'm doing the best I can to live NVC with you, and I'm hopeful that that me living NVC with you somehow changes our relational field, and then you'll get something in your body that's about empathy and connection.
Yeah, it's an ongoing lesson in life. Even Marshall said every time he thinks he knows what NVC is, he learns something new. So we're all just growing.
Yeah.
And doing the best we know how, and life gives us opportunities to stretch that.
Yeah, we're all baby giraffes, right? I mean, now I'm a 23-year-old, 23-year-old giraffe next month. And so that's just barely adult, right?
That's how old you were when I met you.
Yeah. So, and that was barely an adult. And so, if someone just learned NVC like 3 weeks ago, they're a 3-week-old baby giraffe. So why would I expect a 3-week-old to be able to have a really deep empathic connection with me? They're still learning the skills. So it's really about me being patient as a teacher. And
I'm expecting too much. Okay, so slow it
yeah,
down.
your
Okay, thank you. My expectations are too high.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cut
thank
back
you.
on the suffering, hon.
Yes. Tanya, you had your hand up and you put it down. Would you like to share what you'd like to share?
No, I want to hear what you got next for us.
Okay.
Oh, well,
All
Rob
right.
just put his hand up. So I guess that's our next, and then we'll go there.
Yeah, Rob?
Well, some people have natural MVC though. Like it's amazing. They've never taken the course, I don't know where they got it, but it's just, they're there with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
That's absolutely true. In fact, it's true for 100% of the people. Every single one of you is a natural giraffe.
Well, but I mean, there's some people though that really all of a sudden they're reflecting back an emotion to them and says, "Oh my gosh," so yeah.
It's because it's our natural state, Rob, and not everybody suffered the way that some of us suffered with trauma or stress or abuse or a particular kind of educational system. So and some of us are just more resilient than others, and so we bounce back from that. And I know what you mean about those natural giraffes. I love hanging out with them. I learn a lot from them because they really remind me of what it's like to be a human being. Great. All right, let's practice. So I'm going to skip the review, I think, because I want to go straight to the practice. So you have plenty of time to do this. So it's this similar practice to what we've done recently. Actually, let's copy this, put this here. And so think of something you'd like to receive from another person. And it can be a physical thing, it can be an action, it can be a reflection, but think of something that it would be a gift for you to receive from another person. And unless you have workshop lock, you probably have about 100 things come up. Just pick one. And if you have workshop lock, then just imagine a situation where you might like to receive something from another person.
Jim, can I just clarify, is this about the other person or is this about getting in touch with our need?
we'll
an
we'll get to the
abstract way.
needs, but it usually helps me to start with what I want. Marshall's advice was know what you want before you open your mouth. So what is it that I want? Do I want the salt shaker? Okay, we'll just use the salt shaker. I'd like to have the salt shaker. Something really basic. So I'd like Jory to hand me the salt shaker. That's what we're looking for, is what's the observation?
Yeah, and something simple like that so that you can stay really connected to the process.
Yeah. Rather than work with a 5-alarm fire, you work with something that's kind of fun and light, and just to keep your brain limber and less likely to trigger your own stress response. So think of something you'd like to receive from another person. Describe what it would be that you'd like to receive from whom. Then how do you feel about it? This is where you go to your body, not to your left brain, but you go to your body and you anticipate asking for something. How does it feel in your body to anticipate asking? So let me give you a specific example from a few years ago, maybe even during one of these classes. But we were working on requests, and I decided that I wanted to stretch by asking for something that I expected the other person to say no to. And so I wanted to ask the grocery store clerk to give me a brand new cloth bag because my old one was all worn out. And I expected them to say no. And I practiced in my head for a while. And yet as I anticipated actually asking them, I became a cauldron of anxiety. I was just boiling with worry and fear. Even though I was hoping that they would say no, I was still feeling scared. So I was really noticing this in my body, and that really helped me by first noticing what I was feeling and then connecting with why, what was important to me. Why was I feeling nervous? So what's it about for you first? So these are needs. The motivation for everything we do is a need. And our feelings are telling us what our needs are. So in my case, when I'm feeling all nervous before asking the grocery store clerk for a new bag, and I'm really feeling anxious, it's because I want acceptance. I'm needing acceptance. So what is it about for you? And if anybody needs any help, this is a good time to ask. If not, then we'll keep going. So now we move from that need, the need that's generating the feelings that you have, anticipating the conversation, to empathy for the future. If you actually got your request answered, what needs of yours would be fed? Is it about connection, love, support, fun? Contribution? Something else? Safety? Mattering? Empathy? Connection? Now, this is the different question. How does your request contribute to the other person? In other words, what need may be met for the other person if they say yes? So in my grocery bag example, maybe it would meet this. This is just a guess. We don't really know. So this is just us using our imagination. Maybe it would meet a need for contribution for the other person. Maybe it'd be fun for them to give me a new bag. Maybe they would see it as a gift to their company because it would be like the name of their company's on the bag, and maybe it'd be like advertising. Who knows? Just making some guesses of how it might contribute to the other person. Now going back to yourself again. If they say yes to your request, just go another layer deeper. What needs do you imagine might be fed? What's the best thing that could happen from the point of view of needs if they say yes to your request?
And how's this different from the other one where we were still connecting with our needs?
Which number are you talking about?
Number 5.
Okay. For me, they're very similar. But it just might be, now that we've looked at number 6, it just might be another level of depth. It might be exactly the same, but it might be just be a little bit deeper.
Yeah, one is
Okay.
about how you feel asking, and then the other is what happens if they say yes.
Okay. And it's also just going back to the needs again and again, just to
Right.
see what's
Yeah,
aligned.
yeah, exactly. It's about really staying focused on needs.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Thanks for asking. Now that you have created like a stew of needs or a basket of needs, and that you see that your request could fulfill lots of different needs. How do you feel now? Seeing that maybe the vulnerability of asking for your needs to be met might be a gift to the other person. How do you feel realizing that your needs and your request might be a gift for the other person? And notice the energy of this feeling in your body right now. Rather than just being up in your head and thinking about the feeling, just let yourself just feel the feeling in your body. Marshall called this savoring. To enjoy the pleasure of something in a mindful way. To bring your attention and focus to enjoy this human experience of feeling some sense of gratitude or appreciation, insight, awe, inspiration, hope, love. Something else. Just let yourself feel it in your bones. This is where the energy comes from to actually make the request. And this is how you get out of your left brain and into your whole brain and into your whole body. You see that you're contributing to needs. When your needs are fed, the other person's needs are fed, and vice versa. And then now get concrete. What would come out of your mouth to make this request? How could you ask for what you want? And what specifically would you say? I'm going to turn the screen off and put this last question in the chat. This is the one we're going to work with together.
If you're showing up where you are.
And so who would like to practice right now? I'll be who, or Jory, you can choose either me or Jory to be the other person. And you can make your request. And so if you're asking Jory, then I'll be your coach if you want some help. And and vice versa. If you're using me as the other person, then Jory will be your coach if you want some help. Who's willing to try it? The way it would work would be, you'd say, Jim, I want you to be the grocery store clerk. And I'd say, okay, I'm the grocery store clerk. And then you would make your request, and then we would play it out for just a couple of minutes and just see what we can learn together.
Yeah, and if you don't want to name anybody, you just say X or she or he or they.
Yeah. Yeah, Janelle, thanks for volunteering.
I was holding out just in case someone else wanted it. Yeah, but it's always powerful to get this opportunity. So thank you. So this is a request to my two daughters, the two that live with me, and I haven't quite got all the words down. Oh, someone else had their hand up.
That's okay. Go
That's
ahead.
okay.
He can.
Okay.
Are you willing to wait for a minute?
No, you go first.
think
Yeah,
mine's
give
kind
your
of
hand.
universal.
Yeah, if you leave your hand up until you're done speaking, it's helpful because otherwise your face
Um,
jumps around and
There
that
you
makes
go.
it clear.
There you go. Now we
you
can see
are.
you better.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Great, Janelle. Okay, so who do you want to be your daughters, me or Jory?
Yeah, wow.
I probably play a younger girl better than he does, so you can do that if you'd like, just to move on.
Go for it. So the request, and so I just jumped straight into the request, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm starting a new job on Monday, and I'd like to talk to, so I'm actually talking to you, but you're two people, Jory. And I'd like to talk about how we can each contribute to the cooking, the cleaning and the laundry, so that we know who's doing what, and it's fairly, and it's distributed across us. I'm wondering if you
It was
willing
hard
to
for me to hear everything you said, so I can't.
I
quite
got it.
decide.
I got it.
Okay, he's gonna be that.
I'm gonna be the daughter. Okay, Mom. So let me see if I got you. You want us to you want to talk about what happens on Monday when you start your new job, about how we're going to distribute chores.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm wondering if you'd be up for that.
Sure. Yeah, I got. We can do that.
So I'm noticing that in the past we make agreements and then they seem to slide away and get forgotten. And I'm wondering how we can come to an agreement that everyone holds themselves responsible for. What do you think would work?
Yeah. So let's see here. Two things come to my mind. One would be we write them down and put them on the refrigerator, so that there's a, or someplace where we can remember them and point them out to one another. And two, have a time limit. I know I feel scared when sometimes you make these requests that now it's a permanent thing, that forever and ever now I always have to fill in the blank, and then I lose my freedom. And so I want some kind of time limit on this, or some kind of measurement of whether this is working.
So I just want to check, is it time limit like when you go to do a chore, how long you'll spend on it? Or is it time limit on if we make this agreement, we're going to check after a week, is it working or do we need to adjust it?
That one, the second one.
Okay. All right.
Would that work for you, Mom?
That would be awesome. When can you move in? Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. I love that.
Yeah. Great. So that was what did you guys notice that Janelle did that you sensed led to connection between she and I? What did you notice that she did that supported connection? Yeah, Tanya?
She stated her need and then asked for your idea.
Yeah.
So she was asking for you to join she's inviting you into the situation. She was inviting your help.
Yeah, she invited collaboration. Yes.
Right.
What ideas do you have, she said. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she listened to your ideas, and you had some pretty adult ideas, I thought. Just saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah. They actually were ideas that our kids came up with when they were about 7 and 8.
Mhm.
So I was channeling my own 7 and 8-year-old. We actually we did put it on the refrigerator. We put it in a little notebook
Mhm.
because well, mom and dad were mediators by then, so we were all about agreement. So they were getting used to the idea. But yeah.
And
so
you
the
heard
other,
what she
the other
did?
thing I wanted to, the other thing I wanted to say, one other thing I noticed was that she constantly was reflecting back, and then she asked for clarity, and she gave the 2 possible ideas she had, but it wasn't like those were the only ideas. It just happened that the second one she said, and you go, yeah, the second one.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of cooperative. There's a lot of
Yeah.
just enjoying the giving and receiving that was going on her side.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. That matches me. Anybody else notice anything that Janelle did?
Okay.
Well, there's one other thing that I want to point out,
Yeah.
which is she didn't start with her request for collaboration. She started with her request. Her first request, is this a good time to talk about it, or something along those lines. So she actually that met my need for dignity.
Yeah.
Like now she leveled the playing field. She let me know that my needs were important when she did that.
Mhm.
And I'm trusting that if I said, no, I'd really rather go play right now. Can we do this later? I'm trusting that she would have said yes. Of course, we won't get to find out today,
Yeah.
but
So
how do you,
first or second time,
Yeah.
it's still.
how do you feel hearing the feedback, Janelle, from me and from Tanya?
It's really lovely. This is such a difficult topic. My eldest daughter is 22. It's kind of this one that has, been looping, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's a really sensitive one. So to get that response and to hear what worked, it's just kind of that reassurance, and it's that it's like that reminder that, and I get really teary now, the growth in, in the more that you practice and the more that you come back into connection, self-connection and connection, that even though it's a conversation I've had before, there's different possibilities and outcomes if I come from that energy in that place. And I'm really grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Very welcome.
Yeah, it's liberating, really, from what we do to ourselves when we have those have-tos and shoulds and aren't very connective. Yeah, beautiful.
There's one other piece that I thought of coaching for you. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it's the moment after you got permission to have the conversation, but before you made the request to collaborate. And it would be something like this. It was like, I start my new job on Monday, and I'm feeling terrified that I'm going to be not only having this job, but I'll still have all the jobs that I'm doing at home. And I'm just really freaking out that I'll get exhausted and sick. And then I'll be grumpy, and you won't want to be with me anymore. And I don't want to do that. So are you willing to talk about how we can make sure something like that doesn't happen?
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Janelle, for practicing. John, you got something?
Yeah, so this is kind of a pattern that I've noticed when I talk to my son. I was hoping that maybe I should give me some help. So often I want to do something with him. I want to, he's 15, he's growing up, I'm no longer his favorite person. He'd rather spend time with his friends.
Yeah.
I might find something that I think is fun to do that he would like. I'll ask him if he wants to do it. And he'll say, that sounds fun, cool, but not now. Let's not do it now. It's always later.
Okay, so let's
And
try this. You be your son, and I'll be you.
okay,
Okay, so hey Dad, hey, I'm gonna call you John. Hey John, I've been I wonder if you got 5 minutes to talk right now about something that I've been thinking about that I think might be cool.
yeah, what's that?
Yeah, well, I've been reading about drones. You know, these little drones that you can learn to fly, and you know, I always wanted to be a helicopter pilot when I was growing up, and now anybody can buy this little bitty helicopter, and I thought it would be fun if we learned how to do that together. And you know, I'm willing to go and buy the drone, and if you're willing to help me put it together, and we can do it to, you know, as a activity for you and I to share. Would that be something that you might be interested in?
Maybe, yeah, that might be cool. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you have some openness to it, but maybe you have an idea of something that would be more fun for you.
I don't know. Can we like not talk about it right now or come back to it some other time?
Yeah, we could. Well, do you have an idea of what would be a good time for you?
I don't know.
Yeah. You got a lot going on with your schoolwork and your social life and everything. So you're probably busier than me. So maybe you got some idea of a time that might work for us.
Um, maybe on the weekend.
Maybe on the weekend. How about, I know you love to sleep in on Saturday. And how about this? How about when no pressure about what time you wake up on Saturday, but when you wake up, you and I will go and we'll get any breakfast that you would like to have. We'll go and you can eat whatever it is that you want, and we'll talk then while you're eating breakfast. How would that be?
Well, I kind of actually on the weekend, I really would just want to hang out with my friends.
Of course, of course. Well, how about this? Would you like to invite one friend to come to breakfast with us? And we could maybe include them in this new thing we're going to try together.
I feel kind of embarrassed to hang out with you. I don't really want I don't really want my friends to hang around with you.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, you know, you want to look cool around your friends, and hanging out with Dad may not be exactly the coolest thing, huh?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad, but I just, I want to spend time with my friends, and on the weekends, like the only time that I have, and then I wait for them to make plans. I never know if they're gonna follow through with their plans, and then the whole day's gone.
Yeah, I just want to pause the role play here, and I want to invite you to notice what's happening. Right? We're actually doing what I wanted to do, which is connect about something. It may not be what I wanted to connect about, but if connection was my need, it's actually happening because we're unfolding something that's quite beautiful about how John in his role is celebrating how busy he is and how the friendships that he's growing and so forth. So this is actually working for me as dad. And I have a sense that as the son, it's probably at least tolerable for the moment. It probably can only go for about 2 more minutes.
Check with him.
But how in your role, how are you doing right now? How are you feeling?
Probably a couple of things like, yeah, I want to do something with you, but you're just not the highest priority, right? And probably a little conflicted about that because it's like an opportunity lost to do something with my friends.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So your empathy for him is that he feels torn. He's torn between wanting to hang out with Dad, and maybe Dad's got some fun idea, but the other half is the reliability of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that's going to be fun, but so he's wrestling with that feeling of torn. That's such a human thing. So you can just empathize with that. And you say, oh, so you're probably feeling torn right now. in a way, it might be fun to go and learn how to fly drones together, but on the other hand, you really like hanging out with your friends. And then see what happens from that. So you just kind of take your time. You know, the way that it seems to work is you start with a project, like some kind of proposal in mind. And then as soon as you start the dialogue, you let go of the project and focus on the connection. And then see what kind of a new project develops. You might end up getting exactly what you started with, but you might, you know, like with Janelle's thing, you know, maybe they come up with some kind of a plan to hire somebody to come in, and so nobody has to do any of this work anymore. I don't know. There's all kinds of you know, like somebody mentioned earlier, it's a creativity crisis. So you just keep working with it with the needs rather than staying attached to a particular strategy.
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting way of looking at it, a different type of connection.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great.
All right.
Well, let's go to small groups and talk about your own stuff with your friends for about 15 minutes or so. And that won't leave us very much time to check out, but I think it's more important for you to have a chance to talk with other people about what you've learned today and maybe do a little bit of practice. So let's, unless there's somebody that'd be unwilling to do that, we will do that now. Looks like we have all groups of 3 except one group of 4.
Yeah.
So why don't we make this?
I was going to make that one group of 2.
Yeah, make 2 groups of 2 real quick. Okay. All right.
Okay, that gives people. Whoops.
I was going to say I've had to go, so I'd be happy to drop out.
Oops. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're going to be a great resource. We're going to.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so it's 15 minutes again. That'll give us just a couple of minutes at the end to check out. Here we go.
See you soon.
All right. I'm hungry for feedback and we're out of time. So I put a feedback form link into the chat if you would like to offer us some feedback for today about what the class was like for you. And if you're not getting email from us and you want to, we send out something about once a week. Put that into the chat for me, and I'll make sure that we add you to the email list. And that usually goes out on Sunday morning for me, Sunday afternoon, or something for you, and maybe Monday for some of you. And I found the song. So after the song, we'll start what we call the after party. So some people like to stay at the end of the call and just hang out for a while. So if that's you, you're welcome to stay. No obligation, of course, but usually we have a few people that stick around and hang out and keep practicing or connecting or playing together. So if you'd like to do that, feel free to do that. But in the meantime, I want to share my screen with you. It's just audio, but I did find the English version of Reach Out to Life, which I will now play for you as soon as I get the screen up on my computer. Okay, I got the right buttons pushed. Okay, here we go.
Reach out to life like leaves to sun, like plants to rain, birds to grain. Reach out to life. So many times, in so many ways, we're afraid to give, afraid to live. So many times. Now let's celebrate the joys of life. Each little breath from birth to death. Let's celebrate. Reach out to life like leaves to sun, like plants to rain, birds to grain. reach out to life.
All right, everybody, reach out to life this week. We'll see you next week when we come back. It'll be our last class for a while because we're traveling to the Bali IIT. I'm looking for substitutes so that someone will come and play with you. And if you have any requests about who might be fun to have, let me know that too. And thanks for these emails. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. Jory left, she took a friend to the bus stop. That's why she disappeared, in case you were wondering. All right, aloha, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Bye.